Alright, now I'm going to demonstrate another wet-on-wet technique that we see in this first example. But this time I'm going to show you how to apply the wet-on-wet watercolor technique to create this sort of green to yellow grass gradient that you can see at the bottom of this image. So it starts out kind of the same way. I'm going to set up a palette where I select adjacent colors that become progressively warmer as I move to the right, and cooler as I move to the left. I'm going to sort of skip a spot for each inkwell so that I can also mix some intermediate hues. So I have blue on the far left, green in the middle. So now I'm mixing kind of a blue-green hue. I'll test that in just a second. And a yellow-green as well. Yellow pigment, while very vibrant, tends to be extremely translucent. So I'm going to sort of overdo. You can almost see, well, you can definitely see that hue change and warm and kind of brighten as I add the yellow. Alright, now on my palette paper, or test paper, same kind of watercolor stock. I'm just going to test each hue of green that I think I might use. So let's go with our blue green. Wash the brush off, take just a little bit of water, pull it down. Our green right out of the bottle. The yellow green I've just mixed. Well, I like that. All right. And the yellow. See how the colors desaturate with the water. You'll see it happen, the sort of shift in saturation of the color change a little as it dries too, so sort of keep an eye on that. Alright? Now, with a big, clean brush, I'm going to again apply just water, no pigment, pretty generously to this lower half of the paper. Some things you probably are noticing, or I hope you are. I've taped all four sides of my paper down to a drawing board. I'm also using a cotton watercolor paper. It's a cold press, so you're going to see a little bit of a sort of physical texture on it. It also has what's called sizing mixed into the paper fiber. That's kind of, think about it kind of like glue. It helps hold the paper together, but also sort of train it to when paper fiber is wet, it swells, and when it shrinks, and then when it dries out, it shrinks, and so the sizing kind of helps it shrink back in a predictable way. But nonetheless, when you saturate it, paper will buckle, so sort of really thoughtfully taping down your paper. Some people even staple it and then sort of slice at the stapled edge. Will help when you're working very wet, keep your paper as flat as possible. If you end up with a lot of paper buckling, here on campus we also have 2 hot presses that we can use when you're all the way done drawing to also help flatten the paper out, kind of like, using heat, sort of like an iron for your clothes to flatten it. I've added another layer of water because I was talking, and it was starting to sort of dry back out. You wouldn't necessarily have to. All right. So I'm going to start with my blue-green. I'm going to kind of pull that at the top, and I can even sort of use gravity to start pulling that color down the ground plane. See how that's starting to move? All right. Then about an inch from the bottom, I'm going to wash my brush really well here. Again, keep 2 glasses, one that you clean your brush with, one that you use to hydrate your pigments. About an inch from the bottom, I'm going to add some really saturated yellow. I'll pull in the same way. I think you can see it just starts moving down the page. Gravity sort of takes the water, takes the color. All right, and then just above that yellow, I'm going to wash off my brush with the yellow green. And again, with watercolor, water gets to be our carrier. You can just kind of keep adding a little bit of the pigment, place it in places that I think need to move. If it's getting too saturated, you can add more water to get it to move, get it to flow. So you can see that color starting to pull down. Wash my brush again. Start adding that really bright green hue that comes straight out of the bottle. Pulling more water over it. Getting it to continue to sort of travel down the picture plane. I'm also noticing that my initial blue-green has really desaturated, so I'm going to add another layer to that. Remember, we're dealing with very translucent tones or hues with our watercolor, so layering can be important and smart. But as you can see, a little patience. And you get these colors to start gradually flowing in to one another. To achieve that gradient ground plane that I desire. And there you have it.